Wake up, wake up. It is April the 11th as we get it rolling on a Friday. A lot of Niner news to talk about. We're inside of 2 weeks until the draft. Let's go.
It is great to have you here. Like and subscribe across both channels, if you would please, here on Damon Bruce Plus, over on The Krug Show. We are so happy to see you once again. Thanks for coming on back. Like and subscribe, if you would please. Larry, like you said, here it comes. We are in the final 2-week stretch. All the evaluations, all the interviews, all the data points that are being collected from a million different places are being processed by every single NFL team right now. And they've got huge decisions that are going to shape franchises coming up in just the next handful of days. This is a very exciting time for football fans. It really is. I know it's an awful lot of paperwork for some people, but if you're into it, and I know so many people are now more than ever before, the evaluation process, this is a hell of a time. 49ers Web Zone today starts with a story about how Shanahan needs to resist his temptations going into this draft. And there's an awful lot of this story that kind of made me laugh a little, made me chuckle, and I agree with, to be totally honest with you. The quote is, "This should be an all-trenches draft if Shanahan can resist picking skill players." That's what a scout told ESPN's Matt Miller, who I know is a pal of yours in the show. And, you know, there's a part of me that absolutely agrees with that. I've been screaming trench warfare since the Super Bowl ended, Larry. You know that. We also know that Christian McCaffrey is not promised to anyone. 2 wide receivers in real time need to be replaced. One of them will be rejoining the team at one point in time in Ayuk. But there are more moving pieces than a lot of people thought. So it does need to expand beyond the trenches. The question is, when do the 49ers address that? When do you think it's the right time to address that in this upcoming draft?
Well, you got to play it how it comes. You know, I don't know their board. I don't know how they have them ranked, but it's. I think I'm a believer that you make mistakes when you shrink the pool down, right? So if you're like, hey, I just need to get if you go into a draft going, hey, I just need to get a good player out of this draft, chances are you're going to get one. If you're like, hey, we're picking at 27 and we absolutely have to have a swing tackle who can play the right side and the left side and who's going to be now you're narrowing your scope and there's far fewer candidates and the chances of you screwing it up are way, way higher. So I would say give yourself a measuring stick that that is going to lead to success. At what point as a 49er organization do you just say, we're not good at this? Let's take a safe pick instead of, the absolute perfect pick, the perfect value at the perfect position, at the perfect, point in the draft.
I wrote one name down and I put it in an envelope, which I guess is a really good way to stop thinking about anything else as it could happen if you're writing one name down and putting it in an envelope.
Yeah, and then you're narrowing your scope. But you see what I'm saying? It's like, go after. You're not good at this. This is the 9th year of your regime. This is what you've done in the first round. Brandon Ayuk, Nick Bosa, Ricky Pearsall. The rest of your first round picks are a tire fire, a failure.
Right. And if we're being honest, Pearsall is still a wait to be seen.
Right. So he's an unknown, and you got 2 guys. One of them was the 2nd pick in the draft. Which, come on. Are we really going to credit? What are we going to credit the Titans for taking Cam Ward? They got the first pick in the draft.
Well, here's the thing. You know what? I will credit the Titans a little bit, where there was no mystery about who Nick Bosa was. While there still is talk about the top of this draft, Nick Bosa was a top 3 draft pick no matter who was picking. My mother could have been picking. She's taking Nick Bosa.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, it still was the second pick in the draft.
Right,
So I
right.
mean, it's like, come on, if you screw up the second pick in the draft, how good at
And they
this are
screwed up
you?
Solomon Thomas, right? That wasn't too far away from number 2.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I mean, go safe. Go try a safe pick. You know, I can already picture this. It's like, we need a defensive tackle, but the value says that Kenneth Grant and Walter Nolan shouldn't come off the board for another 10 to 12 picks. And we want value. So we're going to hunt around. It's like, oh my God. I don't, I've hope for them, but I have nothing more than hope.
To
I
me,
don't have.
there's nothing more like first round is the value is an illusion. You can't apply the word value to first round.
Well,
Value is found in later rounds. You know what I mean?
Let me just ask you this. Does it matter what round George Kittle went in, or that you landed George Kittle? When you land great players, it doesn't matter what round they come from. It doesn't matter if they come in any round or if they just stop by the facility and you notice they were great. It doesn't matter. So enough of this. And here's the other thing that drives me crazy. And I love the draft, and I'm glad that people are into it. But guys, you got to think outside the box. Okay. These mock drafts that we've all done, and I've done a ton of them, will lead you to believe that wherever the mock drafts have the players ranked, that's where they're actually ranked. But in reality, the people who do the mock drafts are no different than you or I for the most part, and they're just doing an educated guess, and they're wrong, a lot. And so people have these amazing drafts. I do the same. You trade back, you get all kinds of extra picks, and then you take every player that the mock draft miss.
Well, I mean, it's very easy to say that no one has ever had a bad mock draft. They're all crackerjack before the draft actually happens, and you know what these players are. So it's a fun exercise. It's a thought exercise. It gets you familiar with players, gets you familiar with the procedure. You know what I would love the NFL to give us, and it'll never happen because these teams protect their information and their draft boards, as much as they protect anything in the stadium. I mean, it's a playbook. How about this? I bet you most teams would rather see their playbook go public than their draft board go public.
Yeah, I mean, your draft board is literally, how your plan of attack. That's literally like having your game plan for tomorrow's game going on the internet on Saturday night.
What I would love, Larry, is after the draft, after the final pick goes up there, takes a bow, and it's over. Goodbye from Green Bay, Wisconsin, everybody. I would love to then see the draft boards.
Yeah.
I'd love to see what the idea was before it started. And then we'd know a little bit more how and why it played out the way it did. Wouldn't you love to see that information afterwards and sort of retrofit it to the draft?
Yeah. I mean,
it all went down.
And I'll say the other exercise that's really futile, and I've done it a bunch, so I know it's futile, is to go look at the draft after the draft and be like, well, you know what? You could have taken this guy here. You could have taken that guy there. It's after, the fog of war clouds everything. Right. And when the clock is ticking and you've got a room full of 40 different guys and everybody's in the league's got a room and you're communicating, trying to make trades and this and that, it's like, it's easier said than done. It's easy when you've got your Tandy 5000 and it's 2 days after the draft and you can sit there and look at it and go, oh, well, this guy is going to be available here. So I would have gone for that guy there and this guy here and this guy there. And it's like, you know what? I hate people who say, you guys do it for fake and we do it for real. But in this case, they're right. But in this article that you're quoting from Shanahan, where Shanahan, David Bonilla, NFC scout, 49ers draft plan is clear. And basically it's like, I read this as well. We talked about this yesterday on the show. Their idea that, it sounds like the scout. I mean, the scout, that quote that Matt Miller quoted, this should be an all trenches draft if Shanahan can resist picking skill players. Okay. And then, so then it has a quote here from Chris Forrester from last year, where Forrester told us, he said, this is my personal opinion. If they ask me, invest in guys that touch the ball, guys that can touch the ball and score touchdowns. Offensive line coach Chris Forrester said, that guy that touches the ball, it makes a huge difference in the game. So he's trying to make it seem like the O-line is secondary. The Niners
First of
are
all,
trying to make it
why,
seem
first, why
he's
is
the O-line coach.
why is Chris Forrester saying something like that? I just don't understand. Like, why would you betray your own brethren? Like, there's nobody within the organization who should be prioritizing offensive line excellence more than the offensive line coach. That to me was a shocker. I'm glad you brought it up. I wanted to talk about that too. Chris Forrester, you're like, the Easter Bunny's supposed to be pro chocolate. What are you doing? I just don't get it.
He's kind of like the modern day Bob McKittrick, which is, he's doing it with less, and that's kind of what he's known for. But I agree with you. It's like, show me a position coach that doesn't want a first round draft pick in his position, and I'll show you a position coach that probably needs to aim higher,
Yes.
But and also, but beyond that, here, listen to this. This is the quote from Shanahan and Lynch. This is Lynch. This one's from Lynch. We like our right tackle. We like our center. Left guard, we have some candidates in-house right now. We'll try to improve our offensive line through the draft, but there are a lot of good pieces there already. So he's trying to maybe be evasive, maybe be, he doesn't want to promise too much or lay some groundwork for something he's not going to do. It also kind of sounds like they may try to do. I mean, this is a team that went into the draft needing an offensive lineman last year, took Dom Pooney in the third round, and got lucky and wound up at the third round offensive guard from Kansas happened to be the best offensive lineman in the draft, and they landed him in the third round. So I would imagine that little exercise last year doesn't make them less eager to draft, to pass on an offensive lineman early. It probably makes them more eager. They probably feel vindicated. But here's the thing. We like our right tackle. Okay, so Warren Sharp just did a breakdown of the 49ers going into the draft, and he had this little stat. Colton McKivitz this year allowed a 5.6% pressure rate. That ranked 49th among offensive tackles. So what do you like? I think we need to peel the onion here a little bit more. You like your offensive tackles. Well, one of them is Trent Williams. He missed a career high last year, 7 games. He turns 37 in July and could retire literally at a moment's notice. Colton McKivitz is your other offensive tackle. He, as I said, is 49th in pressure rate allowed.
I got to tell you, though,
you like your tackles.
Even though that's not a number you want attached to you, I don't see Colton McKivitz as the single biggest problem across this offensive line.
It doesn't have to be the single biggest problem, but the bottom line is you are not a good offensive line. You're not viewed as a good offensive line. You just lost. You weren't a good offensive line. You have a great left tackle who's really old in the twilight of his career. You have a really good right guard who's a rookie now going into his second year. But at center, what do you got? At left guard, what do you got? And at right tackle, you've got McKivitz, who's a 5th-round pick a few years ago. He's 49th in pressure rate allowed. So, I don't know that I would be and Aaron Banks left for Green Bay. Jalen Moore, your swing tackle, got broken off in Kansas City. You don't have a future left tackle on the roster. So, to me, you need at least 2 offensive linemen out of this draft. You need a starting
center. I think
you need a start. Well, they don't, but
I know.
You need a starting left guard for sure. Starting left guard. You got to have a starting left guard.
Well, as far as they're concerned, Ben Barch has already checked that box for $1.3 million.
No. Ben Barch has never played more than 5 games in a season since 2001. He only played 35 snaps this year before he was out for the year. So, no. Ben Barch is a nice backup, but Ben Barch is not your starter at left guard.
That's what they're envisioning right now. I really believe that.
Well,
I think they've got
right now, the second.
In their depth
I don't think
chart,
that's the plan.
Yeah. In their depth chart on Friday, April 11th, I think Ben Barch is your starting right guard or left guard.
Yeah. So, you need a starting left guard. You need a tackle that can play. For today, forget the future. Right now, today, you have to have a starting left guard and you have to have a swing tackle. Period. End of story. You have to have at least 2 offensive linemen. I would say probably 3 offensive linemen. You probably need a young interior player, a young offensive tackle, and a starter at left guard. And we can talk about who that should be, but that's what you need on the offensive line. And then you need a ton on the defensive line. And then the question is, yeah, you could improve the O line and the D line, but if you don't get yourself a receiver, you're not winning anything. Nobody has Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall as their 2 best receivers is winning the Super Bowl. You're not winning the Super Bowl with those guys. You have to get another wide receiver in here, most likely, or you're not going to be very, very explosive. And then running back wise, your whole season is tied into the return of CMC. And then what if he gets hurt again? If in the current state of things, you're done. You're absolutely done. Your season is over. You have nothing. If you so I mean, you got to get yourself a running back.
Even if they get better everywhere there, unless they do an awful lot of improvement across that defensive line too, they're still going nowhere. So this is just, it's a monster draft. I don't think, since you and I have covered this team, I mean, we're going on like 20 seasons covering this team, Larry. Can you remember a draft? I know that like we're, prisoner of the moment. They all feel huge. But this really is a fork in the road draft for not only the team, its competitive window, its championship aspirations, but the regime, its expiration date. It's all attached, I believe, to this draft.
I mean, it's the biggest draft since the Trey Lance draft, and that was the biggest draft since the 2005 Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers draft. Why? Because, one, those were quarterbacks, and this is, you're either going to make or break your team. I mean, they don't have any other options. There's free agency, there's trades, and there's the draft. Free agency, for the most part, is come and gone. They may sign a free agent or two in the springtime after the draft, but almost all the heavy lifting in the free agent market has been done. If you're going to, and they have holes. I mean, right now, today, I would say on offense, left guard, swing tackle, wide receiver 3, RB2, and probably tight end 2.
And you need a corner.
Well, I'm just talking about offense.
Oh, okay.
So on the offensive side, that's your offensive needs. On the defensive side, you need D tackle 1, D tackle 2, D tackle 4 or 5 as a pass rusher.
Edge 2,
Edge 3, LB 2, LB 4, 3 or 4, cornerback 3, cornerback 4, and free safety. I mean, and a kicker. I mean, which they're not going to do. They're going to get a veteran kicker. So they're, good. I absolutely, storm
By the way,
building.
The amount of needs that you just added together is that sounded like more than 11 to me.
It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot of needs. So I mean, as I said, Warren Sharp did a great breakdown yesterday and on his, on his Twitter, where he went through it, and it's like, the offensive line needs are pretty severe. Nick Sakel is a decent backup, but he struggles as a run blocker. Ben Barch hasn't started more than 5 games in a season since 2021 and played 65 snaps last year before he went down. Burford played 81 snaps at left guard last season, but ranked 66th by PFF in his previous stint as a starter. And then you have Brendel, Pooney, and Trent Williams are the only 3 offensive linemen that are signed beyond the season. They need a starting left guard, a swing offensive tackle, and an interior offensive player as well. Corner-wise, they're only 2 deep. They have Lenore and Green. Their number 3 corner today, Damon, is Trey Brown. He's never been a long-term starter anywhere. And this last year, he played 34% of the snaps.
Look at it this way: if they don't address corner 3, if they don't address corner, all the love that all the I believe in this guy that you've been giving Luter Jr., you better be right, Larry, because they're going to ask that guy to play 600 defensive snaps at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I like him, but it's time to go. I mean, it's time to make it happen. I do like him. I do think he can do the job. He's had some injuries, but then linebacker, they're only two deep. They've got Fred and D Winters, and then they have Luke Gifford as a special teamer. I don't really believe that much in Bethune or Graham as starters, so they have no starters there behind. They're too deep. If Fred Warner goes down, they've got the worst linebacking core in football. Um, Wide receiver, they're asking Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall to lead the group. They badly need help there. Running back, CMC is 29. He played only 4 games last year. He played 167 snaps. He's had an Achilles and a PCL injury. They traded JP Mason. Mitchell went to Kansas City. Garendo had foot, hamstring, and MCL injuries all in the second half of the year. I mean, you got some serious issues there. You need a running back, a wide receiver, a couple linebackers, a couple corners, 3 offensive linemen, and about 5 or 6 defensive linemen.
It's like Steve Martin, or not? Steve Martin walking around at the end of The Jerk. That's all I need. This lamp and this paddle ball game and this sock and that's all I need. They need an awful lot. Not only are the 49ers going to have to be good in this draft, Larry, they're going to have to be good when the draft is over. They're going to sign somebody. Yeah. Some undrafted free agent is making this roster this year, right?
Oh, some? How about 5?
Yeah.
How about 5 undrafted players will make the team this year?
Well, look, before we get caught up into another easy, almost to predict Brock Purdy conversation, let me ask you about the one thing that was newsworthy that kind of happened this week. I was not down there, but you went to local pro day. What'd you see? What'd you garner? What were your impressions of local pro day?
Well, first of all, everybody's local pro day is different, right? Because it's all based on how talented are the colleges in the region of the country that you happen to be in. So like the Saints local pro day, they got all kinds. Yeah, they got all kinds of dudes. I mean, you're talking about LSU. You're talking about all these schools down in Alabama, and it's like their local pro day is probably the LSU pro day. So I would imagine for the Niners, it's like, hey man, you went to Davis.
You get Tulane, Coastal Carolina. You get all
kinds of dudes and all kinds of good schools with loaded prospects and this and that. So the Niners don't necessarily have that same depth when you're talking about UC Davis and Sac State and
San Jose State.
They're just not quite on the same trajectory or level as these other schools. But so sometimes it's a little thin.
Nash, the wide receiver, who was like a first. Yeah,
I talked to him. I mean, so Nick Nash was there. I mean, I highlighted my sheet with a few guys. First of all, the best players that were there were Alec Iamanor from Stanford, who, man, I mean, I would almost wager that the Niners are going to draft him. Why? Because Lynch talked to him for 10 minutes, and then he brought him over to Leonard Hankerson, the wide receiver coach, who then talked to him for another 10 minutes.
Who's the guy you think they're going to draft?
The Stanford receiver, Alec Iamanor. He's a big, fast kid. I mean, he's from Deerfield, Mass. I don't know why I get a kick out of this, but he went to Deerfield Academy, which is like, Phillips Exeter, going to, it's the ultimate prep school.
It's like a Harvard feeder school.
It's like everybody's wearing a coat and tie to school, and you probably every student at the school has their own horse, and everything. I mean, it's just like, it's ridiculous. It's
you got to look out for their polo team. They're really good.
Yeah, I mean, it's wealth beyond wealth. You know what I mean? So and who knows? I don't know if he's either wealthy or he got a scholarship, whatever. Then he went to Stanford. He blew out the knee, though. When I say blew out the knee, he blew out the knee. He blew out the knee. He had ACL, MCL, PCL, meniscus, all on the same knee. And my big thing is that he's a scout's dream, but he's a coach's nightmare. He's big and he's fast, and the scout can be like, well, he's all these things, but when you watch the film, he doesn't create any separation because he's not quick. He's more straight line fast. He's big, strong, fast, but he's never in the clear. Like there's always somebody draped on him. So he was there, and I think they're going to probably take him, and that would be very frustrating because they need a receiver who can help. And this guy's like, I like to block. It's like, okay, how about catch? You're a receiver. Can you catch? It's great that you like to block. That's great, and that's going to win some favor in the room. But there's so many good receivers that are better than this guy. I don't know. That was very discouraging seeing that. So he was the best player there. Teddy Buchanan from
Cal.
SI, from UC Davis through Cal. He was there. I talked to Teddy. He didn't work out, but he was there. Craig Woodson, the safety from Cal, who's a really good player. Very smooth safety. He was there. Definitely a draftable player. The other guys that were there, Chandler Rogers, the Cal quarterback, was there. He's small, though. He's about 6 feet tall. Though I thought he looked pretty good. He threw the ball well. Benjamin Wooldridge was there. He's a quarterback who played for Louisiana, who's a Pleasanton kid. That's why he was there. Who else? Jermaine Terry II, the tight end from Oregon State, very talented. He's from Kennedy High School in Richmond. He was there. Esapole, a gigantic tackle from Washington State, who's from Hayward, who never played college ball until he played at Chabot. He didn't even play high school football, and the guy's potentially going to play in the NFL. He was there, and he was impressive. Nick Nash was there and practiced. He's San Jose State's prolific former quarterback, now receiver. He's very skinny, but I could definitely see the Niners going for him, maybe in round 7 or after the draft, just simply because they need a polished receiver who can contribute right away, and that's exactly what he is. And then
By
there were
did you see that they just had an official visit with Wazoo wide receiver Kyle Williams? When you and I were talking about wide receivers the other day, we brought up like Mario Williams. I think we talked about Andrew Armstrong, Zachary Franklin. I had his name on my list, but we just didn't get to him. The fact that the 49ers have brought him in means they're, they don't bring in guys they're not interested in. That's for sure. So that's maybe a name to keep an eye on. Short guy.
Couple other names that were interesting in this thing. One, Kev had a teammate from Northgate named Samisi Saluni, who was when Kev was like a freshman or sophomore. This kid played varsity for Northgate. He was 6'3", 230. He was a wide receiver linebacker at Northgate. He went to Oregon State. He's in this draft. He's now 6'3", 291 pounds. This guy was 230 in high school, and he's 291 now going into the NFL. I didn't get a chance to see him, but I would have loved to have seen him. We're
going to have to ask that guy to pee in a cup.
It's a lot of growth. I mean, it's a number of years. The other guy that really, there's two guys though that really opened my eyes. One of them is my college fraternity brother's son. So I went to Sac State, and one of my fraternity brothers played for Sac State. I was on the Sac State football team. His name was Dom Mazzotti. Well, his son is also named Dominic Mazzotti, and he played tight end for San Jose State. He was he went to Amador Valley High School in Pleasanton. He was like 180 pounds when he graduated. He's now 6'5", 255, and he's a tight end who finished up at UMass this year, but played at San Jose State. And he's a good receiver, and he looked really good in the workout. He was leading the sprints. He was making lots of catches, high energy. And then when I talked to Nick Nash, his teammate, about him, he's like, oh, yeah, man, the guy loves to watch film and this and that. So remember that name, Dominic Mazzotti. His family is local. He would love to be a Niner. And he's got the goods, man. He's got talent. I mean, he's a receiving tight end who's a little underpowered, he's just like Mason Pline or one of these guys. He's going to be a backup NFL tight end, but I think he's a pretty good one. And as a former quarterback, he's really, really smart. So he knows, he can break everything down really smart. He can see coverages. He can read coverages. So he's a very mentally smart, good receiving tight end, Dominic Mazzotti II.
There were two other names. I think there might have even been three. I don't have the third in front of me, but what Jalen Conyers and Harold Fannin Jr. were a couple
Well,
of
no, you're
tight
getting
ends.
ahead of yourself. Those now we're talking about workouts, but we're talking about the pro day.
Okay, no, but I'm just saying, I was talking about tight ends. It feels like this is the week that the 49ers have pivoted to starting to evaluate tight ends. Like they've admitted to themselves, yeah, we're going to need one of them too.
The biggest name, though, are the guy who to me looked the best, and and then I didn't know anything about him, and then I went and watched film and did some study of the guys who were there at the night, last, I guess, 2 nights ago, after the pro day. There was a slot receiver there that just looked awesome, just absolutely looked awesome. And I'm a believer, Damon, that let your eyes tell you who's good. Don't go in there with preconceived notions about who's good, because then you'll fuck it up. Let your eyes tell you who's good. And my eyes told me this guy is good. And I'm like, who is this guy? And I'm watching him, and I'm like, whoa, this guy looks good. I mean, he's small. He's a small slot receiver, but Damon, he was, as they say, the guy had unbelievable quickness, explosiveness, and he was playing in this workout like it was Super Bowl Sunday. I mean, it was something to watch. His name is Giles Jackson. How great of a name is that?
Great. First of all, great name. It's a draftable name for sure. Giles Jackson. Where's he from? Who is he?
So he's it's local pro day. So he's from here, right? He's from Antioch. He went to Freedom High School out in Antioch off Highway 4.
What college did he go to?
So get this. He was a 4-star high school recruit at Freedom High School in Antioch. He got a full ride to Michigan. So he goes to Michigan, and as a true freshman, he has a kickoff return that he takes back to the house for a touchdown for the Wolverines. And then transferred to Washington and played for the Huskies. And this last year, he's 5'9", 181 pounds, small slot receiver. That tells you nothing, right? He's just a smallish slot receiver. It's about what they typically are for the small slots. He was 6 years in college, durable as hell, no injuries to speak of for the most part, very healthy. He ran 4.45 at the UW Pro Day up in Seattle. But my buddies who know him and I called Dave Softy Mahler, who does UW pregame, and I'm like, dude, tell me about Giles Jackson. And he's like, oh yeah, man, he's a 4.3 guy. And then I went and read some online scouting reports, and that's the first thing they say: 4.3 burner. So the 4.45 might have been an off day. Either way, so he's got good speed. Okay, he's been healthy. He was a 4-star recruit. He started at Michigan. He's got kick return, punt return, and slot receiver ability.
So the first thing I did was I went and looked up his college production, right? And I'm like, what did he do with Penix in 2023?
Well, probably nothing.
Last year he had 85 catches, 893 yards, 7 touchdowns. But with Penix, only 14 catches, 106 yards, and 1 touchdown. So was he hurt when Penix was there?
No. You had the other guys
off the field.
You had Roma Dunze and you had Jalen McMillan. I mean, that's it right there.
He's only a slot, right? I mean, if he's a slot, was he? I get,
he wasn't a starter last year. I mean, he sat behind. I forget the third receiver, but UW had 3 good receivers. 2 of them got drafted. So, but I mean, as you said, 85 receptions this year, 893 yards, 7 touchdowns. Okay, so then I wanted to see. Okay, let's look at his game log. Biggest game of the year are probably the bowl game at the end and the Apple Cup against Wazoo. Apple Cup, 8 catches, 162 yards and a touchdown against Washington State. And then the final collegiate game of his career, the Sun Bowl, 11 catches for 161 yards and 4 touchdowns. Giles Jackson, man. I don't think he's going to be drafted. But that is a guy that I absolutely would sign and have in camp this summer. I think when the draft ends, quick phone call to Giles Jackson and let's have you back this summer because he looked phenomenal. And what I loved about him was just how the crispness of his routes and how much energy and you know explosion he had into and out of the breaks, and he plucking everything with his hands, and he was playing like it was just the most important moment of his life, and it was awesome to watch. And then find out that he was a 4-star high school recruit who went to Michigan and then had success at UW and had, really was UW's star.
Wonder why he transferred. Wonder why he transferred. Well, maybe he was a little homesick. Maybe
Yeah, it's probably wants to be in the. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, you're. First of all, I guarantee you the Wolverines had other guys there as well. So
I mean, he was there for the Harbaugh era too. So
yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was loaded. I mean, there's people, in high school, you're all impressed, like, oh man, Alabama wants me, but then you get there and you're like, dude, they wanted everybody, and all the guys here are all really great, and I'm never going to play. So either I'm going to beat these guys out. Oh, I can't beat them out. All right, let's hit the portal. I think that's kind of the mindset of the modern college football player these days. It's like, wow, let me tell my buddies and everybody that I went to Michigan out of high school. And then when I get to Ann Arbor and I see the competition, if I win the competition, awesome. But if I don't win the competition, let me go somewhere where I can really star and play. And it's smart. He went to Washington and he had a great year this year, and he's got a shot. I mean, I guarantee you he developed this year. So, good for him. Giles Jackson.
Giles with a G.
Yeah, sounds like a country western, outlaw. Yeah, I'm looking for Giles Jackson. There was a showdown. Nobody's getting out of here until somebody shows me where the hell Giles Jackson is.
Giles Jackson ain't welcome around these parts no more.
You tell Giles Jackson he best not come to town. It's like Giles Jackson. It's a great name, man.
Like and subscribe if you would, please, over on the Krug Show. If you're watching on the Plus, if you're watching over on the Krug Show, come on over, give the Plus a little love. Thank you very, very much. Again, like Larry said, we are about 2 weeks away here from the NFL draft. It is gather all ye information and bring it to the evaluators. I tell you, when it comes to gathering information, who I've discovered a little bit as a content creator in just the last 6 months. I've gotten to know her a lot more than I did in the previous 6 months. Does a really good job, Steph Sanchez. And she has a list of the official visits. And we've already talked about how official visits correlate with draftable guys with the 49ers for sure. And so you can kind of start narrowing down who they like for sure. They're not doing official visits with guys that they don't like, that they aren't interested in. What do they got, like 13? Now 16 official visits on the board. I'm not going to go through all their names, but, Walter Nolan's name is there. He's been attached to the 49ers for an awful long time. Kelvin Banks, the tackle that we have been debating, is that the right pick, the right fit guy? He has been brought in. Offensive lineman Miles Frazier has been brought in for a visit. Omar Norman Lott, a defensive tackle, TJ Sanders, they've been brought in. Edge guys, Mikael Williams, Landon Jackson, Mike Green have been brought in. And it feels like Mike Green has got a lot more traction, not just with the 49ers, but all the mock drafters. It's like Mike Green has entered the conversation a little late here, and a lot of people really like him. What do you think of Mike Green?
I love him. I mean, he's not a fit for every scheme. He's a small 245 pound, 250 pound edge rusher who's rocked up, lots of athleticism, lots of explosiveness, and lots of moves. He's got a really great spin move. He's really developed some nice pass rush moves. The production's off the charts. I mean, he had 17 sacks for the Thundering Herd. He's a really, really good player. Now you got to check out his off the field stuff. He's had some off the field issues that have to be, dealt with. And then, as I said, he's not a fit for everybody. It's so funny because so many people have him coming to the Niners, and I just put a line through him way early on just because I don't see it. I don't see him coming to the Niners because the Niners typically like a defensive end that's 260, 265. This guy's, he's a really explosive pass rusher. But as I said, I mean, I think it's more of he's like a 3-4 outside linebacker. I don't know that I don't think he can set the edge and hold up on the line of scrimmage, down after down, against 320, 330-pound offensive tackles.
Maybe they're thinking of him
He's
as
going to get engulfed. I think he's going to get
maybe they're
totally
thinking outside
engulfed
linebacker for him. Maybe they're thinking outside.
No.
Maybe they're thinking this is more of a Dre Greenlaw replacement than a Leonard Floyd replacement.
No. Totally different animal. You know, I mean, Dre Greenlaw's a stacked linebacker. This guy's a defensive end. This guy's a pass rusher. He's an edge rusher. He's an edge rusher only. He's not Jalon Walker. Jalon Walker is a stacked linebacker who's just so athletic that he can play the edge, and he may be an edge rusher, albeit a small one. Green is an edge rusher and only an edge rusher. He's not a stacked linebacker. He's not gonna be able to, play 3 yards off the ball, diagnose, fire, that kind of thing. No, he's a dip. He's a pass rusher. He's an edge rusher. He's a 3-4 outside linebacker. He could be a 4-3 defensive end, but I think in a 4-3 alignment, I think he's a situational rusher only. He's not a first and second down player. He's a third down rusher in the Niners wide 9, I believe. So, and also, there's all kinds of reasons. You don't bring in the guys that are your favorite guys. Okay, so first of all, everybody's got a different methodology, so it could be anything. But for the most part, you don't bring in your favorite players. You bring in the players that you have questions that need to be answered. So when you see, the Niners had a 30 visit with Mike Green, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to draft him. It just means that they want to do more fact finding. Yeah, this guy had problems off the field. So they may want to just go up to him and say, "Hey, man, what's the deal?" You had 2 different people accuse you of assault, kind of serious charges. You've gotten off on both of them. What's the deal? Maybe you want to get a vibe for, is this a guy that we can live with or not? But I personally, I think it's a smokescreen. I don't believe they're going to take Mike Green.
By the way, Robbie read, Damon, do you watch football? Yeah, I do, but Marshall Thundering Herd football isn't really on my priority list. And instead of trying to read the work of someone else and pass it along as my own opinion, I'm willing to say, I don't fucking know who he is. That's my value. I'm not another guy online just blowing other people's smoke up your ass. So thanks, Robbie. Feel free to lean out and say things like, gee, I don't know, I'm unfamiliar with that player, instead of trying to be a fucking expert on 600 guys who you've never watched any snaps of. Fuck off. I'm tired of draft talk. I need this draft to happen. I'm tired of it. Everyone being an expert on guys who they've watched 30 seconds of film on, and they didn't watch it. They watched a YouTube clip.
Whatever. I mean, I don't really have an opinion on this whole conversation, but I will say this. Just remember that, how do you know what you know, period? Do you know what you know because you watched it and thought about it? Or do you know what you know because somebody that you like or think that they know what they're talking about likes the player? Why exactly? You always have to ask yourself, why do you like the player? I like the player. Why? And then the other thing is, and this is the number one thing that kind of annoys me, is that these mock drafts are just a guess, and they're generally outsider guesses, right? Because they're not personnel departments. They're media entities or guys like myself. People are doing mock drafts, fans and media people, that kind of thing. But none of us are college scouts, director of college scouting. And so we're removed from it, even if we're super into it. My point is just this. Everybody's got their mocks. And then what I can't stand is he was mocked in the 3rd round, but he went in the 1st. So it's got to be a bad pick.
Right.
Or he was mocked in the 1st round, but he went in the 3rd. So it's got to be a steal. It's like, guess what? if a guy's a scumbag and he's a bad guy, and he had a second round grade on him, and you took him in the third round, yeah, there's some person out there who's writing an article going, yeah, the Browns were super smart. They got blankety blank in the third round. But in reality, they took a guy with character flaws, and yeah, they didn't take him where he was ranked, but they still took him, and he still has those character flaws. So it's just one of those. And then the value, it's like, once again, the old saying, if your premise is wrong, your conclusion by definition is wrong. So if your premise is that if the premise is the mock draft, then your conclusion of where they're actually drafted, becomes like, it's like, oh man, this was that. No, the mock was wrong.
It's distorted information from unreliable sources. That's the whole thing.
It's an opinion. It's somebody's opinion. That's fine. Okay. But just because we're all reading a bunch of opinions doesn't really mean that that's the consensus. It's just our perception. So that's all I'm saying. Like, I guarantee you, like, I did get a chance to go look at an NFL draft board. It was years ago. It was the San Diego Chargers draft board, because a buddy of mine was an intern in the Chargers football operations department when I was in college. And so we went down to visit him to go to spring break and go to Arizona. And me and my buddy flew down to San Diego. He picked us up, and we went to the Murph, where the Chargers offices were at the time. And sure enough, we walk right into the pro personnel room. It's Bobby Beathard and Rudy Feldman, and they're sitting there in this room with all these names on the board. And they sat us down in their war room. We were just college kids. And I talked to him about how I was a big fan of the draft. I looked at the board and this and that, and we talked and this and that. And it's like, you can tell that, every team's got a board that's not related to every other team's board. So the Rams may like a guy in the first round who the Niners would never draft in any round.
Yeah.
The Niners could like somebody in the second round that 2/3 of the league don't have on their draft board at all. So
AJ Jenkins was that guy.
Yeah. I mean, seriously. AJ Jenkins, no matter what, Lowry, I'm telling you, it's like Vontae Mack, no matter what.
I wrote one name down in an envelope.
God. The arrogance of Trent Baalke right there. It's like, dude, you know what? Writing one name down in an envelope's really cool when the guy's fucking good. When the guy's horse shit, you're just a jackass. You're just a jackass. Hey, I wrote one name in an envelope. Yeah, hey, Trent, I wrote Trent Baalke's ass is going to be fired in a year. I wrote it in an envelope. It's like, what? One of the worst people I think I've ever met in covering sports has to be Trent Baalke. I mean, throws people under the bus, a survivor to the end, but, some backstabbing, conniving, power hungry scout sucked up to Jed and the family. I mean,
it's funny. There was a lot of no one really criticized Trent until they knew he was vulnerable, and then all the knives came out for him. Right? Like,
of course.
Yeah. Anyone?
I hate that too. By the way, that's like the Kapler thing too. Oh, these people were, absolutely eating out of the palm of his hand. Oh, he's talking about a pork chop. Oh, he just had a serious, TikTok about an egg sandwich. Oh, Gabe is socially aware, and he's this and he's that, and God bless him, and he made everybody kneel and all this crap. And then all of a sudden, oh, wait a second, the Giants are going to fire him in 72 hours? There's discontent. Nobody likes him. He needed to go. This is well beyond expiration date. This should have happened months ago. Oh, it's like, I hate that. That's no different. That literally watching the media do that is no different than turning on, Instagram or Twitter and seeing some kid getting, stomped at the mall by like 17 kids. And here comes a 18th kid to take a big kick to the head. And it's like, you know what? You guys are all a bunch of scumbags. And you're just taking liberties on a weakness. I don't know. There's nothing worse than bullying the weak person. And that's what the media does. Oh, we're going to wait until you've got some weakness. Oh my God. Let's go to town. Let's go to town on them.
I want to play a little game with you. Larry. First, CBSSports.com says, I thought this was a very well-written article about the Niners and, just something that they should probably get better at. What was that?
Oh, I was giving a thumbs up to media or scumbag.
Well,
Joseph Sullivan.
Some are. Be careful. I don't like grouping everyone in as scumbag, but there are people out there trying to do the job correctly, and there are other people out there with an agenda, and that's it. CBSSports.com, by the way, says contract drama has become a way of life for the 49ers. Lynch and head coach Kyle Shanahan say the right thing shortly after the season ends, but negotiations with players have a tendency to become acrimonious even when they shouldn't. We sort of saw that with Trent Williams. We definitely saw that with Brandon Ayuk, although that was a lot of moving parts to that situation. And I guess we're bringing this back to Brock Purdy. Hopefully it doesn't get there. Again, here we are at the end of another week where they haven't gotten a deal done for a deal that I think we all know is going to get done. Why the delay? Let me just play a little game with you, Larry. Would you trade him for? I remember us having this conversation before the Super Bowl, and I think your answer was no before the Super Bowl, but, information is allowed to change. Would you trade Brock Purdy for Jalen Hurts, Larry?
No.
Would you trade Brock Purdy for Dak Prescott?
No.
Would you trade Brock Purdy for Josh Allen?
Yes.
Would you trade Brock Purdy for Joe Burrow?
Yes.
Would you trade him for Trevor Lawrence?
No.
How about Jordan Love?
No.
How about Tua?
No.
How about Jared Goff?
No.
How about Justin Herbert?
Ha!
We have something to talk about.
That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
Okay.
That's a tough one because Herbert is in a lot of ways the physical prototype, but
he also just threw 4 interceptions in a playoff game.
Yeah, I mean his feel is just not there. I'll say no.
Okay.
I know lots of people are like, dude, how could you imagine Herbert with Shanahan and this all, okay, whatever.
And then I think this is going to be a yes, Lamar Jackson. You'd trade Purdy for Lamar Jackson, right?
I'm not a Lamar Jackson fan because Lamar Jackson doesn't win in the playoffs. But yes, I mean Lamar had one of the great games. He's he's an MVP. Yes, I would trade Brock Purdy for Lamar Jackson. I don't like Lamar Jackson. Is not like if I was trying to win the Super Bowl and I had my life depended on it, I wouldn't have Lamar Jackson.
Well, look at it this way: you might not win a playoff game with Lamar, much less the Super Bowl.
Well, it's just proven. It's just proven. If you make the Ravens are a classic bully team. If you stand up to them, you get a lead on them, and you make them throw the ball from the pocket, it's game over, lights out. Thanks for coming, John Harbaugh. See you in training camp. I mean, it's so.
So we're not talking about how to beat the Ravens. We're doing a thought exercise here. And we just played a game called Would Ya? And it sounds like you would have traded Brock for no more than 3 of those guys, sight unseen. We'll think about Justin Herbert. So you've got Brock not getting traded for at least 6 of those names, right?
Right.
Those are the 10 quarterbacks in football making $50 million a year. All those guys.
When Jed just called Brock a top 10 quarterback. So,
right.
I mean,
so Jalen Hurts got a Super Bowl. Dak's never been to one. Josh Allen's never been to one. Joe Burrow's been to one and lost. Trevor Lawrence, not close. Jordan Love lost to Brock on the way to a Super Bowl. You got Tua, not close. Jared, close, but not close enough. Justin Herbert, not close. Lamar, can't get close.
And Goff, by the way, played horribly in the playoffs. When he had opportunity to, the Lions checked out. Didn't Goff have a bunch of turnovers in that game?
I can't really remember.
Didn't the Commanders slap the Lions around in Detroit? And didn't Goff throw like 4 picks? I'd have to go look at that, but I'm pretty sure.
Anyways, I want to share one thing with you here that I loaded earlier today. In a survey of several NFL sources, only one said that they would extend Brock Purdy this offseason. Another graphic says, this is a quote from a longtime defensive coordinator on Brock Purdy. I like the guy, better athlete than you would think. As long as he gets the ball out on time, he's good. Once it's not clean, he becomes average. Well, did you watch the Super Bowl? Because when that Patrick Mahomes pocket wasn't clean, he looked pretty damn average at times too. I would say just about any quarterback out there looks a little average when their pocket isn't clean. It's hard to remain excellent when you don't have a clean pocket. So he also says he's good. He's more athletic than you'd think. The other one said, we interviewed and we surveyed all these guys and none of them would extend Brock. I'd like to know who you surveyed. I'm not here to shit on anonymous sources. It's how a lot of news gets made. But are these anonymous sources from teams that have won anything? Are these anonymous sources from teams that have established quarterbacks? So they're always flipping the Rolodex to try to get to the next guy because the current guy's failing. Brock Purdy's not failing as a quarterback in any way. As a matter of fact, we just had a little conversation about him without even talking about him. And Larry admitted he is better than 6 of the 10 highest paid quarterbacks in football. And I would like to remind everyone, as everybody's bracing for the contract number that's going to be associated to Brock Purdy, in the top 10 QB salaries, you won't even find the best quarterback anymore. That's how quickly these salaries go up. Patrick Mahomes' name has fallen off the top 10 list. He signed a contract just a handful of seasons ago that made the entire world go, holy shit, look at that money. And then handful of seasons later, it's not even in the top 10. So no matter what Brock signs for, it's probably going to be the same type of scenario. The number that you think is unsustainable, is ridiculous today, a few years from now, won't even be in the top 10 anymore. All I can tell you is that Brock Purdy has the NFL's best passer rating since 2002. It's not an opinion, it's just a fact. He's led the NFL with 9 yards per pass attempt, 13.3 yards per completion. But he's got a weak arm, says the internet. But he's got a weak arm, a dink and dunk guy. Okay, well, he's got a completion percentage rate of 58% on throws of 10 yards or more. That is tops in the NFL. Tops, the most accurate downfield passer with his weak fucking arm. Imagine if he had a decent arm, how much better it would be, right? There are people trying to talk this guy's failure into existence because they bet against him early on and they don't want to admit they're wrong. The 49ers have a quarterback who should have been extended a week ago. Certainly should be extended before OTAs. I don't know why. As this CBSSports.com article indicated, why do negotiations become acrimonious even when they shouldn't? And
where's the acrimony? Where's the example of acrimony here?
Well, in this particular instance, we don't have it yet, but are we trying to find it? I mean, that's the point. You know how you avoid acrimony? By getting the business done.
I don't think there's no indications that there's any acrimony. It sounds like it's a deal that's going to get done. Couple interesting things. One, there's a great Warren Sharp breakdown on Brock Purdy on his Twitter yesterday. I'd encourage all of you to check it out. And basically, he's like, hey, this whole notion that Brock Purdy was bad in 2024 is bullshit. And it's totally bullshit. 8.5 yards per pass attempt. That was third best in the NFL. EPA per drop back was fifth best in the NFL. Success rate, he was fourth best in the NFL.
Right. And a team that didn't block well for him and didn't have wide receivers separating.
Well, and beyond that, and didn't have wide receiver separation. They were 32nd in the NFL in wide receiver separation. That should not be discounted. Good point there. The Niners also had the second most injured offense in the NFL. The Niners ran 57 total plays on the season at full health, where Purdy, CMC, Kittle, Debo, and Ayuk were on the field together. 57 total plays all season. That's why the guy had a down year. Now, he had a career-high interception rate, 2.6%, 26 in the NFL. He had a career-low completion percentage, 65.9%, though. It's still 66%, still pretty good. It's 17th in the NFL, mid-pack. So what happened? What happened was that he came out. He was having a good year. He was running around. He was making plays. And then all of a sudden, it started to, the pressure of the whole thing started to bog down. His equation started to bog down as the injuries mounted. And suddenly he had people calling up going, suddenly Brock Purdy running around wasn't a positive anymore. And
You
all
know
of a
what
sudden
I
it was
also
like
think was off his game last year? Kyle Shanahan.
but
He had
people
a
were
bad
saying
year.
that, Brock's playing hero ball. Well, what do you expect him to do? I mean, you have no weapons. Your offensive line's not good. You're under rush. You can throw it into the turf, or you can try to run. He tried to run, and he was successful running for a good portion of the year. But then what happened? And Sharp outlines it well. Without CMC, teams stopped playing the cover 3 with the deep safety in the middle as much. Teams played cover 3 zone against the Niners 49% of Purdy's dropbacks last year. They played cover, and they played a lot more man. They played cover 3 zone 59.9% against him in 22, 60.5% in 23. So it was more man coverage. He's not as good against man coverage because he didn't really have the weapons to get away from man coverage. But this idea that he's some underpowered guy, and this, he doesn't enable some people. I've heard this too. Hey, I say, why don't the Niners get, blankety blank receiver, downfield threat? And people will be like, well, Brock can't get him the ball. It's like, Brock Purdy was excellent as a downfield passer. He completed an NFL high 57.9% of his passes on throws 10 plus yards downfield.
You cannot lead the NFL in passer rating since the day you started playing football in the NFL if you're bad at any part of throwing to the field.
But you can't sit there and say that the guy
intermediary shit and everything underneath too. He leads the NFL. Best passer rating since 2022 at 106.2.
But passer rating is different, Damon. Passer rating does not indicate that you're going down the field. This does indicate you're going down the field.
Right, but
you're completing 58% of your passes downfield. The NFL league average is 48%.
Right. By the way, you want to know
10% above the league average.
You want to know who is second worst in the NFL at completion percentage of yards of passes 10 yards or more? Second worst in football at 35%. Cheeseballs answer to everything that's ailing the. Stop this nonsense. Just let McCorkle cook already. Mac Jones, second worst in football, 35% yards, 10 yards or more. Second worst in the league is the guy who you think is the answer to Brock Purdy. Let me tell you right now, if Brock Purdy were 6'5", no one would say a fucking word, Larry. No one. If Brock Purdy were a physical specimen and had already been an MVP finalist, had already set a franchise record for single season passing, had already had a 31-11 touchdown to interception ratio in his best season, had already brought the team to a Super Bowl, had the admiration of the coaching staff, all of his teammates, most of the fans, married his high school sweetheart, is never, gotten into a domestic violence call like Tyreek gets every other week now. I mean, like, if Brock Purdy were 6'5", everyone would be fucking in love with him. But he's not. He's easy to make fun of. He's easy to dismiss based on stature and based on preconceived, this is my position on the guy and I'm refusing to evolve, content creators who just are trying to speak his failure into existence. Sign Brock Purdy. Sign him today. There are 10 examples of the contract that he is going to get. We went over the list. There are the avenue of how to get it done has been laid down and paid over by countless NFL teams. It's just moved one number over here, a little number over here. This is taking too long. And I believe that.
You said somebody in here was like Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Cheeseball. Mac is tall and stronger arm. Let's ride.
Right. He sucks. Do you understand that? As a quarterback, though,
I don't know if he sucks. I don't know if
he sucks so far. If he stops sucking, it will be because Kyle Shanahan helped him stop doing that. He
made 7 starts with Jacksonville last year. He completed 65% of his passes, 8 touchdowns, 8 picks. His 80.5 rating was ahead of only Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. He had a 16% inaccurate throw rate ahead of only Anthony Richardson. So he's not, this idea. I mean, I think Mac Jones has got talent. I think Mac Jones will play much better in the Niners system with Shanahan and better weapons than he did in New England and better than he did off the bench in Jacksonville.
Right. I think he's going to be Sam Darnold 2.0. I think he will be a quarterback that everyone has questions about. He'll come here, he'll get better, and maybe turn into something more than he is right now. But to this point in his career, it has not been good. Where to this point in his career, Brock Purdy has been an A-plus fucking student, and everyone wants to insist he's a flunky. Not everyone, but the vocal majority, the vocal minority of, YouTube 49ers land. It's just amazing to me. It's fucking amazing to me how so much doubt remains, and it's fed by the Niners' reluctance to get this deal done.
Well, I don't think there is reluctance to get the deal done. It hasn't gotten done yet. Just because it hasn't gotten done yet doesn't mean that there's reluctance.
Let's not forget what we talked about last year. Let's not forget what we talked about last year.
That's different. That's a different player. We're talking about different
business. They left business on the table, thinking it'll all get done before we start eating, and it didn't get done.
Yeah, but I mean, once again, you love this fascination with getting everything done in the off season in the midst of nothingness is really quite amazing to me. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it gets done right now. They're not playing right now. So I don't look at this as
why put off to tomorrow what you can get done today.
It's a negotiation. This is when they're negotiating. They don't have a game, Damon. They don't play They don't play. You want a realistic timetable? Here's a realistic timetable. Late May. That's when the Niners begin phase 3 of the offseason workouts. The 10 days of OTAs can start being held where there's 11 on 11 permitted. The Niners will do their install at that point. That's when you should be concerned. May
Brock
the 27th.
indicated at the end of 2024 that he would like a new deal done sooner rather than later. He pointed to the start of the offseason workout program, which is April 22nd, 11 days from right now. So if you're asking where acrimony could come from, maybe not getting Brock what he's asked for reasonably in the time he's asked for it. Why?
It's a negotiation.
Look at it this
way. Believe me, the 49ers have made an
an
offer. If Brock Purdy wanted to sign, he has an offer in front of him right now. It's not like they haven't offered him anything.
I would like to know what it is.
Yeah, well, that's great, but that doesn't mean they're deficient in signing him because it's April 11th and they haven't signed him. Even the deadline that you said is not here. I mean, at least let's let the deadline pass before we crush them and say they're fucked up and they're this and that and you've set a deadline. We're not even at the deadline and you're already saying that they're screwing it up. It's like
they got 11 days. They got 11 days, or maybe that's where acrimony starts to grow from.
11 days until they hit the offseason workouts, but the 11 days, that's the draft stuff. The real workout, I'm telling you, it's May 27th. That's the date.
All right,
now,
well, according to Brock Purdy, the date is April 22nd.
That's when that's not what he said, actually. He said he wants to be there for the OTAs. I know what he meant, and everybody who covers the team knows what he meant, which is he meant that he wants to be there when they do the install. He doesn't want to be on the sideline when they do the install. They don't do the install in April. They do the install in May.
I would want him there for all of it. I would want him there for all of it if I were the 49ers. And again, I would
want him there, but you also want him at your price.
When the season ended, the show after the Super Bowl, you and I were talking about some of the things that we'd like to see different. And a lot of the things that happened to the 49ers, they really didn't have control of. You don't have control over injuries and all that stuff. And what do they have control of? They have control over how they go about business in their offseason. And you and I were in lockstep agreement that getting deals done faster would be better for everyone involved. Now here you are, totally changing your mind and your tune. And I don't know why. I have not changed my mind.
I'm not changing anything. You're being an idiot.
No, I'm not being an idiot.
Yes, you are being an idiot because nothing matters until May. And what matters is the OTAs when they do the install. If he's not there at that point, then that's a problem. We're over a month away from that. And they're in the midst of negotiation. I'm not going to sit there and crush the team and say they're fucking it up because they don't have their quarterback, who's a very difficult guy to get signed on April the 11th. And just because what? Because you're tired of talking about it? I'm sorry. That's not a barometer that means anything to anybody except you.
I don't think it's just about me. I just think the 49ers are setting up the acrimony.
Well, let it happen before it actually. Instead of predicting acrimony, let's actually talk about something that actually happens. As opposed to if they don't get. You're right. And guess what? If the 49ers don't show up in week 1 with a team and have a forfeit, that's really going to be bad. But since there's no indication that that's going to happen, why would we bother spending 1 minute talking about it?
I'm sorry. Go ahead and pick the next topic then if I'm boring.
Well, no, it's ridiculous. I mean, you're getting a little ridiculous. I get your take, but your take is nonsense. Your take is it needs to be done now. And then your reasoning for why it needs to be done now is because I want it done now and I'm tired of it.
I think Team Brock Purdy wants it done now. I think
he doesn't want it done now. He wants it done, period. He wants it done. Yeah, but Damon, if it gets signed tonight, is it late if they get signed tonight? No, it's early. So what are we talking about? Before you go crush the Niners for their negligence in the handling of this, let's allow them to be negligent. That's all I'm saying.
There's one thing for sure, Larry. You know best.
For the horse. You know best. Don't try to paint me as some flip-flopper because you're impatient. I'm not flip-flopping off anything. I said the guy needs to be there when they do the install. That's what's important. Why? Because that's your starting quarterback. And you want him there for the install. The install gets done.
You can believe what you believe, and what you believe is right. But what I believe is wrong because it's not what you believe.
No, it has nothing to do with it. Your timeline is totally based on what? Your timeline's based on your desire to talk about something else.
You know what?
That doesn't impact this timeline. Your challenges and live streams are not related to the 49ers in no way, shape, or form. So you can pick an arbitrary date. Damon, you've said for 4 weeks running, they need to get it done now. They need to get it done now. They need to get it done now. That has been your consistent drumbeat. I've tried to push back intelligently and say, that's not really the deadline, but you keep pushing it. Now I'm pushing back a little bit more because it's ridiculous. This you sound like a petulant 4-year-old who wants his toy. It's like, dude, guess what? You get your toy when you get your toy, not when you want your toy. So I know you're trying to create some urgency to the situation, but let's let it happen. And then we can tell if they don't get it done, there's plenty of time to crush them. But crushing them ahead of time for last year's negotiation, what's that? I mean, come on. We're talking about something totally new. And Brock wants to get it done, but he wants to get his money too.
Feels like they're about two sides in this pothole that we said, don't step into that pothole next offseason. We'll see.
And they haven't.
We'll see.
You're predicting doom and gloom. But I'm not predicting doom and gloom. I'm saying the one guy just said we'll see. You just said we'll see. It's like they're gonna be. I'm gonna be right, and they're gonna be deficient. It's like, dude, let's let it all happen before we get all mad at them.
Well, if there's one decide
before we decide they suck, why don't we give them an opportunity to suck?
About it is the only way it should be thought about. Thank you, Larry.
There's a real timeline. Do your homework on the real timeline, and then you'll instead of just demanding that it get done like you have in February, March, and early April, why not just actually point to a date that actually has some meaning? There's a real reason for it, as opposed to just I want it done. You have openly stated multiple times on this live stream, with me, that you want it done now because you're tired of talking about it. But your timeline and theirs, it doesn't matter. So this whole, it needs to get done. You've painted a picture of deficiency and delinquency when there is no deficiency or delinquency.
I actually do think this is a 49ers business practice that has done more to hurt business than help business. They're slow playing every contract is not good for the overall product in my mind. If it's in your mind different, that's great. Then you can talk about that on your channel. I guess I'll talk about this on my channel. But for us to come together to talk about our ideas and you call me petulant and an idiot is fucking insulting.
Yeah, well, do your fucking homework.
I have.
Dude, do your fucking homework.
Brock Purdy.
You just called Mike Green a fucking stacked linebacker. Do your fucking homework. I'm with the guy in the chat. Do your fucking homework.
Could they use him in another way?
Jesus fucking Christ. Don't blame everybody else. Do your fucking homework.
What's wrong with you today? Why are you so angry?
Because you're fucking being an idiot. And it's like you keep throwing these things out aggressively, and then you're yelling at the chat. The chat's holding you accountable. Be accountable. That's all. That's all
I'm
saying.
sorry. I have not dove deep into all
it's
my
draft season.
Then
don't talk about it. If you don't know what you're talking about, then don't talk about it.
You know what, Larry?
Come on, dude. It's as simple as that.
Let's get to the supers and wrap it up. How about that?
Let's do it. And instead of listening to more idiocy. Justin, at the combine, they said younger, cheaper, faster, and healthier. With their investments thus far, it just seems like cheaper. Ha ha. Silent, with Isaiah Bond gone, who tops your day 3 wide receiver? That's a good question. Isaiah Bond is not gone, but he is now in trouble with the law. So who's a day 3 wide receiver? Juice Wells. There you go. Right there.
Mario Williams.
What game did you like that he played?
Right off the top of my mind, the Tulane game that he played in, I don't know. I was looking at an amalgamation of stats.
Okay. Harold McAllister. The number one problem I want the 49ers to fix in the draft is run defense. I agree. You got to be able to and run offense on the goal line. They can't run it on the goal line, and they can't stop the run. They need 5 defensive linemen. Boxing fan times 4. Can you name the players that you think if they were to be drafted by the 49ers would get Kyle and John fired? That's a good one. Who could they draft that would get them fired?
No one. I mean, like right now, like they got fired the day they made the pick. I don't think so. But
I'll give you one. I mean, I don't know if they'd be fired, but I mean, I think they are wed at this point to Purdy. So if they drafted Shedeur Sanders at the 11th pick, that would not be good. That would be like, I thought you said Brock Purdy's the only quarterback you're ever going to have, and now here we are in the draft, and that would be really bad because it would be an indication that there is acrimony and that the deal is not going to get done, and they're going to pivot in the 11th hour to Shedeur Sanders. I think that would be the beginning of them being fired. I don't think they would be fired immediately, but that'd be the beginning of it. Fuji Simeon, et tu brute. See, Larry, this crusader knows his stuff regarding take on people suddenly coming out of the woodwork to stab you in the back after sucking up.
Et tu brute. Learn your Latin.
There you go. I took my Latin, but I don't remember it. Fuji Simeon, at this point, I just want to hear either there is a deal or the state Brock will play on his 4th, or two-state, Brock will play in his 4th year, and both parties will regroup in the offseason. You want finality. Everybody wants finality. Fuji Simeon, almost to 40K subs. Damon, congrats.
Thank you.
Steven Draper, y'all tripping. Maitland, Larry drank too much coffee this morning. Don't drink coffee. Fuji Simeon, Larry, my SI friend just said if the Niners are aiming to negligent, they should hire Reardon grads. Haha, pivot. Looking forward to bottom of the pint. That's right, bottom of the pint today with John Lund. Tonight, if the game doesn't get rained out. Joseph Ernberg, arguing over a quarterback who will suck anyways. Brain dead.
At least Joseph is consistent.
There you go. Steven Draper. Larry, love Jan, but you're wrong for name calling. Thank you, Steven. Fuji Simeon, side note for the Giants, is it realistic to hope to go 1-5 or 2-4 on the road trip to Philly and New York? Every win's crucial. Both those teams can hit. It's going to be a tough road trip, but the Giants are playing well. It's early in the year. 1-5? No, I mean, yes, 1-5 and 2-4 is realistic. Basically, 2-4, you're losing 2 out of 3. Can the Giants lose 2 out of 3 to both teams? Yeah, I think they can. I think that's reasonable. Okay. We've got them all.
Got them all?
Yep.
Great.
We got them all. Larry, a Purdy hater. No, Larry's not a Purdy hater. Purdy hater. All right. There you go. Larry loves Cone is the problem. Check your ego at the door. All right, here we go. All right, that's going to do it for us. Have a great day, everybody. Appreciate all of you guys. Check out Pig and a Pickle, the 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. We're also brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades, Claw_Daddy_Arcades to find a location near you. And the show is sponsored by Learn Keys Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. Whether you're interested in IT, cybersecurity, marketing, or another high-demand field, they offer 30 certification programs to help you get job ready as you take that next step in your pro career. So 37 years in biz, 200,000 students, over 100 graduates placed in good jobs every month. Check them out. The links are in the description below. Damon, I'll give you the final word.
Get yourself to Ike's, get a delicious sandwich, have yourself a fantastic lunch. If you're ordering lunch for the office, check out Ike's Catering. If you're just ordering Ike's for yourself, make sure you signed up for that Love Rewards program and you start earning your way to chips, drinks, free sandwiches, all that good stuff. And the next time you need a pint of Guinness, make sure you head to the Dubliner in West Portal in San Francisco to get it. Dubliner, West Portal. Awesome bar. Great place to go watch Warriors, Trailblazers tonight. Good news is the playoffs start tonight for the Warriors. Bad news is the playoffs start tonight for the Warriors. They better get 2-0 in their final 2 games unless they really start messing around. We're going to talk about that at 11. For those of you who think, Dad and Dad are going to break up. Damon and Larry are never going to work together. They're never going to do another stream together. This is the breakup. This is the end of it. Larry and I have been screaming at sports at each other for 20 years. There is nothing either of us could say to either of us that is going to end anything. So calm down, everybody. Calm down. Thank you very much for watching. It was an awful lot of fun today, even though Larry's out of his fucking mind. Get the deal done. Get the deal done. Thank you very much. And